Burris Arms here, working on a new build. This time we're going to be working on a AK-47 modern style. It's the WASR 1063. This is a great running model. I made sure that it didn't have any of the normal issues, things like canted sights or magazine wobble. I ran probably around 50, 60 rounds through it, and it had absolutely no hiccups even on fast rapid fire. So I'm actually pleased with this firearm for the price. This model came with the Tapco handguards, the pistol grip, the plastic pistol grip, and the folding buttstock, as you can see here. And I have a couple of buddies that think it looks cool, but it's not practical for my purposes. I actually like a traditional buttstock. So some things that we're going to do to change it: I'm going to first fully disassemble it. I'm going to clean it up, then I'm going to sandblast it, I'm going to put a new coating on it, and then I'm going to put some new furniture on it. Some of the things that we're going to be adding to it: this model was made in 1964, but it was the newer rebuild models. It does have the optical mount right here on the side, so that's something that I'll be able to put on here and have an optic on there now. We're also going to be putting a UTG quad rail on it and replacing it with this Tapco handguard. And then for the buttstock, I couldn't find, and I'll talk to you about that in a second, but we're going to be doing FDE for the buttstock. Something that I noticed when I was shooting this: when you hold this up, your cheek can't rest comfortably on the buttstock here and line up with the sights. And if you put this and mount this up right, you can actually see how much higher your cheek would be when you're aiming in on it. It would actually increase it up right around 2 inches from your line of sight with your front and rear sights. So something else that we're going to be doing is, I don't like how small the pistol grip is on the traditional AK style. So I got a hoe grip, and it's much bigger to fit my size hand, and that way I'll feel like I have actually more control holding onto it with my firing hand. So something just to match the buttstock is I'm going to do FDE covers, rail covers for the Picatinny rail. All right, that's that. So let's go ahead and get started. As I take it apart, I'll explain to you of why this actually is a pretty good model to get. It's to start off with, to take it apart, there's a little button on the back right here. You're gonna push in on that, and you're gonna pop off this top cover. Should come off fairly easy, just like that. And that same button that you pushed to take off the top cover, you're gonna push in further, and it's gonna pop out of 2 little teeth that hold on to it, and that's your spring. That comes right on out. Next thing is you're going to pop the bolt out. Just pull it really hard, it'll come right on out. And then to finish taking it apart, you're going to slide it out, keep it rotating, and then it'll pop out. Now this is a full field strip. Everything that you just saw, it's completely field stripped for a traditional wartime situation, or if you're out in the field and you want to break it down to see what the problems are with it functioning. This is all you have to do, and it's fully field stripped. So that is an advantage compared to the AR, as far as having to break it down, because I mean you have to break down the bolt carrier group of the AR, and it takes it's much more tedious and takes a lot more time. So anyway, next thing what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take off this buttstock. I'm going to make it easier for me to show on camera as I take everything else apart. So let's go ahead and get started on that. And it's just 2 screws down here at the bottom that should come out fairly quickly. Now I have the screws off. All you have to do is just wiggle it out, and it'll pull straight out. And I haven't decided if I want to sell this or keep it. Just maybe I do want to someday go back to it. I doubt it, but it might be something cool to keep, because I probably won't get anything top dollar for what it's worth, so it wouldn't be worth it. All right. Next thing, let's go ahead and take off the handguards. All you have to do on that is there's a little lever right here. You're going to pop it up and out, And you could see already that this was ready to come out. This is the gas block, and as we're replacing and we're putting on this quad rail, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be still utilizing this gas block right here. So all we're doing is we're taking off the plastic part and we're popping it off. And traditionally all you do is you twist it and it just pops right on out. Just like that. So we're done with that. That'll go over here. And then everything else we're pretty much going to use. This is going to be the gas block that goes inserts right inside of here. So, alright, set that off to the side. Next thing you're going to do, right here, there's a little tongue groove that you just lift up on and separate it, fold it all the way back, and it should slide up and out. And then your lower handguard should come right on out. Just like that. So you set that aside as well. Now, something that traditionally I would do, and I do always on my ARs when I'm fully disassembling them, is I take off the A-frame front sight post as well as the gas block here. Alright, so after you remove the bottom handguard and you start looking at the gas block and the A-frame, I've noticed on this firearm, if you look at the pins, it almost looks like they've been welded in there. So even if I do heat them and try to drive the pins out, it looks like it might even cause some damage as I do it. It's an older firearm. You can tell this has been on here since it was built in 1964. So I'm not going to mess with it. I can still create a full restoration while keeping the front sight post and the gas block intact on there without moving them. So what we're going to do is the muzzle brake up front, we're going to go ahead and remove. You're going to use, there's a push pin here, and this is one advantage about having a 1063 model versus a WASR 10, is that it doesn't have a welded flat tap on here, so you can actually switch out your muzzle brakes. You can choose which one you want. I actually prefer this one. It sounds crazy, but it came with a bayonet as well, and this fits perfectly on there. That's another model on 1063, is it actually has a bayonet lug on here. So it also came with the cleaning rod that goes in there. But the main thing that I want to talk to you about this the flash suppressor, and it's more of a muzzle brake than a flash suppressor. But instead of having it be exposed here at the right around 7 o'clock, the center of the bottom, I'm going to rotate it to where it's more right around the 5 o'clock. So that way when I'm holding it, it pushes down and towards my body to help my line of sight better. Anyway, I'm going to have to drill in and tap in right here since I'm left-handed. Right now, if this were dead center, holding down, it shows that it's drilled right here at the 1 o'clock position as you're looking at it. And so I'm going to have to tap it in right here at the 11 o'clock, and then if you switch it, it's a difference at 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock. But that way it'll kind of be off-center for it to be for a left-handed shooter. So that way I can have a faster target acquisition. So anyway, something else that I want to do is I want to go ahead and pop off this front sight post. What you're going to do is you can see where it's clipped in here with the spring. There's a spring underneath here. So what you're going to do is you're going to push right here, right in the center of where that bridge is, and you're going to tap it. And what's going to happen is as it goes in, it's going to naturally slide out and it's going to pop out. So I'll try not to have it pop too much, but don't be surprised if it flies. Okay. Here we go. So all we do now is we just pull it out, and then it's fully removed and good to go. So that way we can go ahead and just keep that the way it is. It's functional. I don't need to mess with it, and it's good to go for later when we put it back on here. All right. Next step, what we're going to do is we're going to remove this pistol grip here. And let me put that back real quick. Just take your screwdriver. You're going to unscrew it. And one thing about the AK is that the screw inside of here is super long. It runs the whole length of the pistol grip, and I'll show you that real quick. Hold on just a second. Okay. As you can see here, it runs the whole length all the way to here, and then it screws into this little block here. Let me see if I can get it out real quick. There you go. It screws into where it catches on the metal. It it catches on the metal right here and then screws in. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to use a much shorter screw to go inside of our hoe grip, because we won't have it running the whole length. It'll just be, say, from here to here, up inside of there. So that's just a note. So don't get worried if you see that when you take this out, this is super long, but if you bought a replacement, it's not as long of a screw. But anyway, we'll put this aside there as well. And make sure not to lose this, because we're not going to need to do anything with it. We'll go ahead and put that inside of the pistol grip as well, so it won't be lost when it comes time to reassemble. Alright, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take out all of the internals of the trigger. And how we're going to do that is we're going to go ahead and put the safety on. And after we put the safety on, what we're going to do inside of the trigger, we're going to start pulling it higher. You're going to start forcing it up as you go. But you got to make sure and look down here carefully. Go ahead and let the trigger go. But what you're going to do is you got to wiggle the trigger. As you wiggle the trigger, to make sure that your safety does not come in contact with your actual trigger parts up here, because naturally it doesn't want it to come out. And when you're putting it back together, same thing. You're going to have to pull that trigger in order for you to assist this forward to continue to put in the lock position for safety. So anyway, like as I'm pulling this up, I got to pull the trigger a little bit so it doesn't come in contact with it. And then after I have it at 90-degree angle, you're going to wiggle it out. It's going to naturally want to come out. And it just like that, set it aside. And then as you look in here, the next thing you're going to do, there's a little spring that was attached to that safety lever that's in the new modern AKs. What it does is it hooks inside right where this hammer is. It hooks inside of there, and this spring keeps tension on the two pins to make sure that they stay seated and they don't fall out of the AK. As well as like when it's laying in here, this part hooks on where the hammer is, and the trigger part, this sets down on top of the trigger part to make sure it doesn't slide out, that pin. And I'll show you guys what those pins are in just a second. So anyway, make sure not to lose this. Set it aside. And then when you take it out, make sure you know how it looks, how it's supposed to go back in there. That way there aren't any questions when you're putting it back together. Okay, once you take the spring out here, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take out this pin that goes with the trigger. The pin should move fairly easily with minimal effort. Just use a tiny punch to push it the rest of the way through. All right, there we go. Okay, so the pin should come right on out, no problem. And then next thing you're going to do, go ahead and lift that trigger up out of here. In order to do that, there's two springs that are attached to the hammer. Let's see if I can keep that propped. There's two springs attached to this hammer that are holding the trigger in place. So what you're going to do is you're going to try to take off one of those triggers and then lift up on one side. And then same thing on the other side. And then the trigger should come right on out. Just like that. And this is the Tapco G2 trigger, made here in the US. It's actually a good trigger. The traditional trigger, when you'd pull it, it would actually slap back on your finger and it would start to cause some discomfort. So make sure when you're also looking at this that it has the G2 trigger in it. And then next thing, you're going to pop out the other side. Let's go ahead and pop that out. Alright, just like that, it pops out. And then you just pop this pin. Now remember, these two pins are the same size, so you don't have to worry about which one goes where. They'll both slide into the same slot. Once you get that pin out, all you have to do from then is make sure that these springs allow for the hammer to come on out, just like so. Now what you're going to do is make sure that you see the way it fits in there. If this was fitting in here just like that, right here would be where the spring holds onto that trigger, right here where you're pulling the trigger, and so the hammer is positioned like so. So make sure that you remember how that goes later when you're installing it. So after that, you're pretty much done. This isn't like the AR where you can fully take off the barrel and break it down any further. This is pretty much all you need to when you're going to restore it and have it look brand new. So thanks for watching the video.